stand.
Hello, hello. Welcome.
Better.
Welcome.
That works.
I think so. Hi, everybody.
Where our normal stand went.
This one's kind of wobbly.
Yeah, it is. It's going to fall over here shortly.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
We've got time for a cookie.
Hello. What a lovely day it was.
Absolutely beautiful day. Still is.
Mm-hmm.
The nights are definitely coming much earlier now.
Yeah, I did notice that the weather's or the seasons are definitely
seasons have
changing
changed so much. Shortening.
very quickly. It's
You have
funny
to have your
how
chores done earlier, and can't start as early in the morning anymore either.
Yeah.
It was late at what, 5:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
And now 6:30 before it gets light. Or before it gets light.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit.
It's funny how quickly it happens too. It's like the end of June, boom, we're back into the.
Yeah. Sure is. I don't think the baby's sleeping as well as he's supposed to be.
He's supposed to be sleeping over there, but I think he's playing peekaboo with us now.
Yeah, I think so.
Hello.
Forget how we do this. We don't normally type back, eh? We just read them off the screen.
Read them.
Yeah. So we had a nice little rainstorm come through this morning. It was awesome. Or not this morning, this afternoon. The video that we posted today, I took it this morning actually. And we'll try doing that more often so we get more regular videos up. A lot of times we take them and then I have like 2 weeks worth on my phone. And of course I'm gone, so Anissa doesn't have my phone. And we'll try to do that a little bit more often. Now that fall's coming here, we're not going to be as busy and crazy. We'll probably have more time. But I mentioned about rain coming, and they weren't talking very much. We actually ended up getting quite a bit. Sporadically in places. But
what is the weather like in Oregon? Is it hot, humid?
I always forget. I gotta get a map posted. I can't remember where Oregon is again.
Below us.
Midwest maybe or something. I can't think of where it is. Yeah. So we definitely needed the rain. It's getting kind of dry out here. Our hayland actually, I should take some video of that. Maybe I'll do another short video on that sometime. But it is looking just spectacular. For all the people that were with us from the beginning. No measurable rain here since early July, and it's been hot and humid too this year.
That's what ours has been too.
Yeah. Very humid this year. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the grassland's looking amazing. We reseeded a lot of clover on it. It looks beautiful. Now we got a nice cover, so that's keeping the moisture in, I think. I haven't bothered cutting a second cut yet. I think I could. Probably be a decent volume.
No, I think so.
But we're leaving it. We'll probably let the cattle graze on some of that yet this fall. But try not to get it cropped too short because it's really helping to retain the moisture. And it's also going to have a nice boost for next year's crop.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Yeah. Reseed it somewhat.
Well, yeah, kind of green manure idea as well, right? There's lots for the bugs in the ground to eat, so that's important. Spreading manure on it again this year. That'll help huge. Lots of feed growing, I think. As well as the garden space, lots growing there too.
Yeah, everybody can hear us fine. Like, there's a little person in the background, but hopefully they're not making
too much noise. He's jumping around a little bit. Hot and, does it even say humid? I imagine that's what she meant, though. Yeah. So we didn't really have anything major to discuss. Everybody's on the topic of food shortages right now. We are not seeing that in our area. There seems to be lots of food, good crops. I mean, the hay crops have been amazing this year. Even though we've been kind of dry, we had enough moisture this spring, and then lots of heat and lots of nice dry weather that we had really good hay crops. Our vegetable crops are doing great in the gardens. Some of the farms that we partner with are doing pretty good. Well, growing wise.
They're doing good.
Yeah, they're not.
We've had some mishaps.
Yeah, we just came home again here. The calves were in the garden again, so
we didn't quite get the fence up this year.
We gotta get more fencing done for sure. We started on the garden fence, we still haven't got it done.
Yeah.
That and more pasture fencing up front.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, for sure. My coffee's getting cold.
Mm-hmm.
Check that out, eh? My new cup. Father's Day cup. Pictures of the family and all the children. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Very much appreciate that. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Normally it's a Countryside Acres cup. Footage is a little blurry, eh?
Yeah.
Camera's not too good.
That time of night though too.
A little bit darker, yeah.
It doesn't look that blurry here.
No, it doesn't. So on there, it looks good. But I'm looking at it on Anissa's phone. It looks kind of blurry.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's your phone.
Maybe. Could be. I'm not sure.
Not sure. So yeah, curious what everybody else is seeing as far as it's a bit blurry, but not terrible. I'm on a cell phone.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
But yeah, curious to see what everyone else is seeing, if they're seeing some kind of shortages in their grocery stores or anything like that. Basically, I mean, we don't shop for a lot of things, I guess, but anytime we've been in the grocery store, it looks like everything's fully stocked, everything's there. It's a bit longer to get parts and stuff like that sometimes, but haven't seen much as far as food shortages here. Anything is there? Why do they disappear?
No.
All right. Hide all chat messages. Some messages. Live chat. All messages are visible.
Yeah, but we have to be flipped. So if you could.
It has to be flipped in order to do it.
Yeah.
All right. So I have to read it off your phone. Haven't seen much as far as food shortages here. Is there anything pronounced or anything like that? No, I haven't. No, it seems like a lot of the YouTube channels out there are saying, about food shortages. We're not really seeing it. Like I said, bumper crops of stuff around here. Now that doesn't mean that's not getting to the grocery store, right? Like you do hear stories of a lot of stuff being thrown out, not making it to the grocery store. But at this point, our local grocery stores, all the food that we would normally see there is still there. I'm not really seeing anything. Like, I think down the road it could come.
It depends, I guess, on what you're looking for too.
Yeah, maybe.
Right,
and this time of year is we're right.
Like there's certain products that people can't get, but they usually can substitute it with something else, right? So again, that would be a distribution, I would think, as opposed to a shortage.
Maybe you can think of something specific that.
Yeah, like they can't get the juice, right? They can't get the juice now. They can't get those Jersey.
Which juice?
It's grape juice that I normally get.
Oh, okay.
They can't get the Jersey bars. They can't get, right? Like there's certain things that we've noticed, so but like there's, yeah, in other cases, I
guess I was thinking more produce wise, everything's available, but that could be the timing of the year too.
So meat, like I went in the one day and there wasn't very much meat on the shelf, right, but that's what I've heard from people, those in the southeast part of the U.S. The coming shortage seems to be a big topic now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, some of it I think is, I don't know, I guess we're not that dramatic of people.
Well, but I think it's still coming. Like in Holland right now, they've made some major measures as far as fertilizer reductions.
Yeah.
And that's going to be felt. I mean, Holland is a huge agricultural exporter. And here in Canada, now the Canadian government is following suit. There's also, I think, a 30% reduction in fertilizer use. We're not really pro-fertilizer. I mean, we try to do it naturally, and we try to use manure for fertilizer, but I do realize that that's not possible everywhere. Even where we live, there's just not enough animal manure around here for people to grow the grain. So if you want the same level of grain grown, you're going to have to use commercial fertilizers. So we try to avoid that, but that doesn't mean that everybody else is interested in avoiding it. And then reducing that by 30% is going to also automatically reduce the amount of food produced. So I don't know by how much. If it's a 30% fertilizer reduction, it may be a 30% reduction in food as well. Now, having said that, it's hard to measure that until it happens because certain crops require more nutrients than others. Right, so it's a nitrogen reduction if I understand correctly. And by planting things like clover or alfalfa, you can put a lot of nitrogen back in the ground. And then planting whatever crop needs that. We may have to just address and change the way we farm. But I think, so I can't predict the long-term outcome of that, but I do think in the short term that's going to be painful because humans are always slow to adjust and change.
Adapt, yeah.
Right? If we're used to dumping X amounts of fertilizer on, it's going to take a while before people change that and say, okay, well, then we'll try something else.
Well, debt is a big thing too, right? Like
debt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are so indebted.
They're maxed out.
Max that you
That's why I think you're going to get a double whammy. It's not
Yeah.
just the fertilizer, right? It's the debt loads as well.
Right. A lot of people, they can't not fertilize, right? Like even if they wanted to change their way of farming, they've been doing it for so long now that even if they wanted to change it, it's almost impossible now because of the way the industry has evolved, right? And then they put themselves in so much debt now because of that, because they've tried to evolve with the industry at hand, and yeah, they're gonna.
And rising interest rates plays a part there.
Well, exactly,
Yeah.
and then farmers need to get bigger, and then they need more fertilizer. It's just the evolving issue.
But we both feel that rising interest rates actually is a good thing, and once again, that's going to be short-term pain. But I think they've been too low for too long, causing people to overextend and borrow too much, which then forces them into certain style of farming and certain style of living to pay for that debt.
Right.
Versus if you had, I'm not wanting 10% interest rates, but just as a number, if we had 10% interest rates for the last 10 years already, people wouldn't have the debt load that they have right now.
Yeah.
And then a change wouldn't maybe hurt us bad.
So what? Maybe,
but I don't know. I mean, that's hard to say. I'm not an economist.
Maybe we should be talking about the inflation. That's the other thing.
Well, we're seeing that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other word? It's not just inflation. It's, what do they call that one? Like you don't notice that the price of the product is still the same for that box of cookies, but there's actually 4 less cookies in there. Shrinkflation. Shrinkflation. I think I've been hearing people seeing that a lot. So no, hey, you can't climb up there. I would turn that camera around. But, yeah, what do you think is going to happen? He was halfway up the wall of his crib, hanging on by his feet like a monkey, and anyway, he slid down and smacked his cheek. That's not a good idea, buddy. Well, anyway, shrinkflation is definitely something I hear people saying. Meat packages are a little bit smaller. There's a couple less Oreos in the packs. There's a little bit less toothpaste in the tube. So the price is still the same, and you think you're getting the same value, but you're actually getting less for the same amount of money. That is something we're seeing. I don't know what the long term is going to be. I think there's going to be a lot of change as far as how much it's going to hurt. I guess depends on each individual situation. We've always recommended everybody have some land, learn to grow some food, definitely learn to preserve food. Right now, I would say we're seeing bumper crops and excess food. There's so much being thrown out. We feed our pigs a lot of thrown out food, and that could easily go to feeding people. So distribution maybe is part of the problem too. I'd love to give these tomatoes I got right now. They're great. If I could give them to somebody, I would love to do that. But I don't know who I'd give them to. I guess the place we get them from already gives them away, right? So, how do we read these? When I move this on your phone, it wants to. Oh, there it goes now. Okay. That's what I've heard from those coming shortages. Yep. Hi, Cheryl. Main things I've heard about are probable seed shortages that farmers are talking about, and also because of the drought out here that the tomatoes will be short, so stock up on tomatoes. Okay, so for us, we've got 3 skids of tomatoes we were just given.
So my tomatoes did not go very well this year because I normally start...
Except for the wild ones growing. You got to look through there.
Yeah, except for that video. But I planted a whole bunch of like starts. Like I usually start my own plants, but this year I didn't get to, so I went to the nursery nearby, and I planted a bunch of their plants. Anyway, I didn't get very many tomatoes, and I was just thinking that I was gonna have to buy a bunch of tomatoes this year to process. Anyway, lo and behold, he came home with 3 skids full of toma- tomatoes. So we've been processing tomatoes, lots of tomatoes.
So hi to everybody that's just joining now. See Rob's on here, Cheryl. Whoops, maybe that's a better way of looking at it. Yeah, there we go. That's easier to read. So yeah, I've heard that too with the seed shortages. I'm hoping to order my seed that I need for the farm already now. You already did that as far as garden. I think you have basically all your seeds for next year already.
Yeah.
Another thing that we see a lot of people encouraging is to keep your seeds as much as possible.
Yeah, and always buy organic if you can, so that there's a chance to keep seeds if you need to.
And like I said in this morning's video, quite often we find that when you buy things from the store, those seeds don't grow very well. Now, having said that, we have had great success with volunteer pumpkins and volunteer tomatoes we see now. What else did we have volunteer last year? It wasn't just pumpkins, wasn't there something else? Was cucumbers or something? Or I thought we had something else volunteer.
With squashes,
peppers.
Pumpkins.
In any case, I don't know how many seeds were dumped there in order for that stuff to grow. So, but I was just saying to Anissa too, all these tomatoes we have now, we could just, throw them in a line in the ground. And I mean, if 10 plants grow out of 100 that we planted, well, it's still more than the 10 that we had before, right? So, we can still do that as far as tomatoes. And then maybe keep the seeds from those, because those are not modified or hybridized or whatever they do to them.
Well, they might be. You never know.
But yeah, I would say stock up on everything. Somebody this week was telling me that they regularly look at their supermarket. They have I don't think they have this in all grocery stores, but they have a shelf in their grocery store where they knock down things that are about to expire, so a lot cheaper. So they stock up on a lot of stuff there. You do that with bananas when they come on sale. They're getting kind of past their due or whatever. You stock up on them, throw them in the freezer, and then use them for banana breads and things like that. There's lots of options.
Yeah, or can them.
Hi guys, got a few minutes. Hi Rob. Financial manipulation to create dependence on chemical fertilizers, basically. Well, dependence on everything. Yeah, farming is. I hear this all the time, and I talk to a lot of the farmers in my area and farmers in other areas, and it's the same story, that the margins are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's getting harder and harder. So a lot of the people, are reduced to off-farm income, which is kind of unrealistic. The amount of money you make on a job doesn't really go very far for paying for things on a farm. And also, you're then not at home anymore, so your attention's not at home, and you're going to make even less on your farm income. So it just becomes a cycle that's going to lead you farther and farther from the farm. And I think it also leads the kids away from the farm. So we would like to continue to stay on the farm, and collectively as a family, we're just going to keep pushing away. And we're not feeling it that bad. It's just that the question always comes up, what can you do in agriculture right now that still pays? Right? There's I was reading some history today of my family, got a genealogy book, and and all these people, they milked the cow and then they made some butter, and then they drove around town and they sold milk and butter and so. And this was a common thing people did.
Yeah, it was normal.
You can't do that anymore.
And that's only in what, the 60s?
Yeah, some places in the States you can still do that, but here in Canada we're not allowed to sell milk. We're not allowed to sell butter or cheese.
Unless it's pasteurized and through a facility.
It has to be through a facility. Even meat, I can't sell my own meat. I have to have it butchered in an inspected facility before we can sell it. So it all makes it challenging, and we can work with those challenges, but it increases the costs again too. Yeah. So financially, I think, we're not that bad a shape, but a lot of people are strapped, and forces them to make certain decisions in their farms too. That's been going on with shrinking sizes of products for a long time.
Yeah, we've noticed it too.
Like kids always say that we open up a bag of chips, and then you'll have a big tall bag of chips, and then when you open it, there's only like this much chips in it. And I'm like, well, why did they do that? Well, because we think we're still getting a full bag of chips, and we don't complain about it.
Who would listen anyway if you did complain?
Yeah. Marilyn, hi Marilyn, how are you? Good evening to you as well. Oh, how did the garden do? I missed that one. Good, I think.
Really good, yeah, until the animals got into it.
Yeah, we've had the calves. Well, the pig first.
The pig
The
started.
big pig went through a couple times.
Yeah, he started digging up my potatoes, so I had to harvest them a little bit earlier than I would have liked. And then he started on my pumpkins, and then he started on the neighbor's garden. So he ended up in our freezer.
A bit annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, now the calves are in it. The bull was in it this morning. So yeah, a
Fencing.
little bit.
Fencing.
A little bit annoying. We need a lot more fencing. We were just discussing that too.
That very patient.
Our first farm was 100 acres. We left that farm, what, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. It was 100 acres in 13 parcels with fences. Well, fence lines. I guess there was no fences there anymore, but you could see where there used to be. So, and then there was a chunk of bush back there. I don't know what that would have been. 5 or 10 acres of bush.
Sure.
And then you had the home, like the barn site, the yard site. So really there was 15 pieces basically that 100 acres was cut into. It worked fine. So here we're looking at this and we don't really want to chop it up into pieces, but it would actually suit us better if we had more fences and more pens. And as long as I can still get in with the equipment.
Well, back with that fertilizing, right? It would be better for intensive grazing if we could rotate them faster.
Sheep and
move them and yeah.
And so that's not our style either. This year we've had the pigs locked up, and we've had the sheep locked up,
right?
And the weaned calves from last year we've had them locked up all year. So we're still feeding them hay. They're still basically they're grass fed still, but we would prefer them actually out on the pasture where they're getting a maximum amount of sunlight.
And then obviously using their fertilizer to benefit the land as opposed to having to put it on with a spreader and. It all costs money too.
And then the pigs too. We did start on that. Wes has got some wire in the bush, but we never did get them to the bush yet.
No, we haven't.
So it would be nice to do that. Chop it up. Brandy says hi. Well, hi, Brandy.
Hi, Brandy.
I think most of our children are sleeping already, but how did the garden do? We covered that. The weather has been difficult to grow things here this year. Very wet from March through June, and now hotter than normal. I hear that more places. Even southern Ontario has been extremely dry, I heard. Who was telling me that again yesterday?
Yeah, but we weren't wet in the spring.
No, not here where we are. It's been really good.
Yeah, the only thing I noticed in the last, month, it's been so dry that I kind of took it for granted and forgot about watering our garden. Then
right.
I went down and I was like, oh, everything looks so sad. Maybe we should water it.
They bounce back pretty quick when you put some water on.
Well, yeah, but it's like our garden is kind of on a slope, so it's like any rain we did get would be like all the stuff at the bottom of the garden.
Yeah, and it's very sandy too.
Yeah, so everything at the bottom was looking really well, but everything up near the top was kind of sad. Yeah. But yeah, it bounced back.
Yeah. Hello, Marilyn. Stores here squeeze every last dime out of clearance items than in other areas of the country. Yeah, and that's, I mean, of course they have the right to do that. They own the store. But I think they're going to throw it out anyway. You think how much bread, how much produce, how much milk, cheese, eggs, stuff that goes past its prime and gets thrown out. They lose that profit 100%. So as a business owner, you would be far better off to knock it down 10% or 20% and try to move that product than to throw it out and get zero, right? If it's a $4 dozen eggs, 10% less, you're missing 40 cents.
Makes me wonder though.
Take 50% off and you lost $2. You're still getting $2 for that dozen eggs. Whereas if you throw them in the trash, you got nothing.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder with the things that we've seen with these distribution centers and things like that, whether or not maybe these stores, if they send them back to a company, the company buys them back for a percentage. So maybe they're not getting a full.
It depends on how they have it set up.
Like Walmart, right? Walmart doesn't have, I don't like Walmart, but like Walmart has like a storage facility that their stuff goes back to. Right. Yeah. And then
depending on how it's set up, they might get reimbursed. So years ago, I asked one grocery store, there was only one specific one, Grocery King, I think it was called, and I asked them for all their leftover bread that went bad, and they said they can't. They bring it all back, and they get refunded for all the stuff they bring back. So they didn't actually own the bread, basically. The bread company was putting the bread on
Their shelf.
Grocery King's shelf, and then Grocery King was getting a percentage of the sales, and then the rest went back as proof that they weren't sold.
Okay.
So now I could have maybe made a deal with the bread company, but they hauled it all back to the warehouse. The only guy, he was just driving a truck. He didn't.
Right.
I don't know who you would talk to.
Yeah, but it just makes me wonder with all these big skids full of food that they, like they have in warehouses that they then have to throw out, right? Like there must be a payout that, or why wouldn't you see more of like grocery stores and things like that giving it away at a discounted price, like you
Now
said?
there's a flip side to that. If you know that, then you would always be waiting for the discounted stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And nobody would ever buy the
Yeah.
newer stuff.
There is a challenge that.
But you have a certain element of society. I was just discussing with my friend Rob there that there's certain people that will not buy clearance or will not buy free food or take. I guess you don't buy it, but pick up free food because they're too good for that. And so you're always going to have a certain element of society that's going to pay the more money, and then there's another element of society that's looking for a better deal.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know what the answer
Such
exactly
a
is.
fine line,
Hey, oh, we're buffering. I think there it goes. What else was I going to say about that? I was going to say something. The free food. I don't know. Farmers are having difficulty mostly because of state and federal regulations. There's a lot of difficulty with that. There's a lot too much red tape. That actually, I mean, I'm not serious about moving anywhere. It makes me think about other countries because certain places have a lot of places that are actually encouraging to those messages. I should turn my notifications off. Sorry, guys. But they actually encourage small business, encourage farming, and have less red tape. Actually, when we were in Saskatchewan government was much better than Ontario government. They recognized that they were losing more people than they were gaining, and losing, business owners then as well, entrepreneurs. So they tried to change some of the rules to make it easier for people to do business. So as one example, we could actually butcher animals ourselves and sell the meat in Saskatchewan, not inspected. Whereas we're not allowed to do that here. If I do that here, I could get, I don't know if you go to jail for that, but you get in trouble anyway. Probably a warning the first time. I know a guy who was selling eggs that were not graded, and you can do that from the farm gate, but he was selling them to grocery stores and restaurants. He was starting with a $25,000 fine. Well, you got to sell a lot of cartons of eggs to pay that fine back. So too much red tape for sure. We've discussed this lots, and we also feel that a lot of it is government subsidies killing farming as well, because it makes it an unfair advantage for some. Right, the bigger guys get a bigger subsidy, the little guys don't hardly get anything, and it's not. You're not making a living. Like we're really striving to make a living on our farm. I don't want a government subsidy. I don't want a government handout. I would like to make a living here, and I should be able to. And I think all those government handouts actually hinder more than they do good. It makes you dependent on the state.
Yeah, and insurance too. Right? Insurance companies, I found the farmers.
Yeah,
oh yeah, farmers now it's like, well, if their crops fail, it's not a big deal. They just get insurance.
Yeah.
Like it used to be like it was a big deal, and you might lose your farm, so you were more wise with your finances. And
yeah, if that crop failed, you lose the farm.
Right. So you worked harder to try to make things work and manage things differently, and maybe didn't go to that extreme of debt load, so that you were, if you lost that crop, you might actually be able to float a year or two. But the market is it's impossible not to have that.
So maybe that contributes to food shortage as well. Like I hear stories of that, and I find it hard to believe, and I'm not sure if I do believe it, but you hear stories of people being paid to destroy their crops, and I'm hearing a lot of stories of that. The government's paying them. It just seems really wrong. That's why I find a hard time believing it. But if you're being paid to destroy your crops, that's going to create a food shortage, which seems really dumb. And I think if there was no handouts and no subsidies and no insurances, then that crop, that's how you're going to pay your bills. And you'd have to sell that crop. You'd do your best to grow a really good crop and sell that crop in order to eat at the end of the day, right? So, High Tinker's wife. Oh, bummer, pig ravaging the garden is no good. Ticket to freezer camp for the pig.
Yeah.
There's a really funny story on that one. Our neighbors helped with that. The pig, after he was done over here, went to the neighbors and was knocking things over there. So he called us, and I said, well, I'll deal with that. I was going to put him in the freezer. That's why he was running around. I was just letting him experience his last time on the grass, and then we were going to put him in the freezer. But so that next day I couldn't find him anywhere. And I called him again at night before I went to bed. I said, I'm really sorry. I tried to look for that pig and deal with the issue, but I couldn't find him. So if you see him over there, you're welcome to deal with it. Just make sure that you drain the blood out so we can, hang it up and still do something with it. So at 1:30 in the morning, we were woke up as the neighbors came in here with their tractor. They had the big pig in the bucket of the tractor, and
they dealt with the situation.
Yeah, they dealt with it.
And, I woke them up, and I'm like, "God, there's somebody in the yard." They were like not quiet. The windows were open, and anyway, and they were trying to find a spot to lay our pig,
to lay him down,
so that we
I went down there, got the other tractor, our tractor, and we hung him up on the end of the tractor.
I was like, I love my neighbors.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I was so happy that pig was done and over with, and
that was really cool.
Yeah, I was like, it was almost like a challenge accepted that they're like, oh, perfect. If he shows up,
yeah, we'll do that.
We'll do that for you. Great.
Yeah. So yes, he's in the freezer right now. Actually, got him in 2 freezers. I cut him in half, laid 1 half in each freezer, and we'll be turning him into sausage here shortly. Too bad about the animals again. Yes, it's a common theme. We have fencing here. We've got to finish that, and I'm picking up more fencing tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll get something done there. It's mostly the calves right now. The cows are locked up.
Little teenagers, right?
But the calves are bopping right underneath the fence wire, and they're going wherever they want.
Yeah, little teenagers running all over the place.
Yeah, and to some degree, I don't mind that. When they first started doing it, it wasn't a problem for any of us because they got the best pickings of all the grass around the pasture, so they're gaining good. And then they always stay close to mom, and they'd come back for milk. But now, as they're getting older, they're in their teenager stage. They're wandering all over the place.
Well, and they got a taste of my peas, so it was like almost like they tasted the peas. They just couldn't get enough. And
yeah, they like those. They're probably in there again.
Probably. Don't
look at the fog out there right now.
Don't look.
Look at the fog. Can hardly see the chickens. Speaking of which, we lock those chickens up.
Right now, we're live.
They donate what they can't sell in clearance and get a tax break for it. I never thought of that.
That's what I figured. There must have been a catch or something to it.
Well, I live near Bob's Red Mill, and they sell stuff at a reduced rate through an app. Several other businesses are now on too. Coffee shops, restaurants, and others on there. Too Good to Go is the app name.
Interesting.
Okay, so we've been seeing the name Second Harvest a lot. I haven't Googled it. I don't know what that is, but our free center here locally, where we get a lot of our pig feed from, they get a lot of their stuff through there. And so tax break would make sense.
Yeah, and more dependent on the government.
Yeah. And it's nice. I'm two-folded there, too. It's nice that they give out free stuff to people. But people become dependent on that free stuff. So whatever they would have normally spent on groceries now is being spent on something else because they're getting free stuff. But if they ever cut off that drip of free food, those people would no longer have finances for food and would be in a predicament of not being able to buy groceries. Even though they actually do have the money, it's now being allocated to something else in their life that once that takes root is going to become important and would be very hard to repurpose that money for food again. So I'm two-folded on it. I do think it's a good program, but too many people have become dependent on government handouts. It's not wise.
Yeah.
We don't.
Now there is sometimes that somebody absolutely needs it, right? And that's great. But I do feel like a lot of people that don't really need it. Even myself, like say these tomatoes right now, it's like I feel terrible that we have all those tomatoes, that they're such nice tomatoes, right? Like it just doesn't seem right that if we didn't take it would have ended up in the dump.
Yeah.
Right? Like that doesn't seem right. There's something wrong with the system if that good of food is going to the garbage and there's still people that are going without in this country, right? Like
maybe that's a mission for us down the road though, is to find more people to feed that to. Somehow. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
It'd be nice if there was like a soup kitchen or something. Well, maybe there is. Maybe they already get food for it.
Could be. Or, again, we'll go back to the red tape again. She's saying about this too much nuts about the red tape, but that's probably part of the issue too, is you can't take it to a soup kitchen because it's expired or it's past date or it's right. Like there's so many red tapes that right. Like I remember when we lived in Alberta for a few years, and there was a flood, a massive flood in the one town, and the Red Cross came in, and the local Hutterite community made sandwiches for everybody in this one community, because they obviously were homeless, right? So they took them all to a community hall or arena or whatever. Anyway, and the Hutterite colony put together all these sandwiches, and they took them to the Red Cross, and the Red Cross could not take them because they weren't made in a federally inspected facility. So here is a community of Hutterites that made hundreds and hundreds of sandwiches, and the Red Cross couldn't take it because of the red tape. So they ended up taking it to another village that wasn't run with the Red Cross organization, or didn't have them organizing that community hall or whatever, and they took it there. But it was just like, seriously, like they couldn't take it because of the red tape. It just seems so backward system. Here we are in a
somebody probably ate a sandwich that was wrong one
or
day.
might have, yeah. What if they did, kind of thing, right?
Then you get a lawsuit.
Yeah, it just seems ridiculous, right? I think if I was in need, I think I would take the chance, right, of getting sick over, going without, right? It just, we live in a messed up society, I guess.
I agree. That's nuts. Red tape heavy, and yes, government subsidies are hurting farmers. Yeah, a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people don't see, that free money. Nothing's ever free. It's like I keep telling people that. I knew a guy when we were in Saskatchewan. He was going to vote for, I won't say which government. I mean, we'll leave that part out. But there was one particular government that was going to hand out lots of money and give free university and college educations to all the youth. And I was like, it can't be free. You know how much it costs to send a kid to university or college. They're not just going to all of a sudden not charge anybody. Somebody's paying for that. So if the government's paying for it, they got to get that money from somewhere. And that's going to come out of my taxes. Or somebody's taxes. Or the government's going to borrow money. And borrowing money, then that has to be paid back. There's interest rates. And I mean, as Canada, Canadian country, we're huge in debt already. There's no such thing as free. Anyway, he was going to vote for them strictly for that. He didn't agree with anything about them. He was just as conservative minded as we were, pretty close. But he was, he's got a kid that's going to have to go to school, and so he's going to vote for them just for this free education.
Yeah, it's like everybody's saying about we need all these road repairs and these, and I'm like, where are we going to get the money for that? We just can't afford it, right? Like, it's just, we have to, make do with what we have, just because the country is like almost bankrupt. We have no money to do that. Like, make do, people. I can't afford to pay more taxes, so.
No, it's I don't know. There's so many issues, and we need to wake people up to. They need to teach economics in school for one.
Yeah.
1 + 1 = 2, and it needs to be paid back someday, right? Where was we? It's unconscionable when people People are hungry and struggling to afford food. It is, yeah. Growing up, I grew up very sheltered. I was in a church setting where we just hung out with, church people. We had our own school and our own church. And yeah, sure, you went grocery shopping out there. But other than that, you didn't really know what was going on so much. And to think that people didn't know who God was, that was unthinkable to me. When I met her, she said, it's like, hey, well, who's this Jesus guy and how's he fit in? I was, what? And to think that people are going hungry. Well, I've never gone hungry a day in my life. Can you tell? Like, there's always
even
been
your one
lots.
brother said people aren't hungry in Canada.
Not in Canada. I mean, that's something you see in Africa or India or South America or something, right? But not here. We have an abundance, and but now you realize, there's a lot of people that go without. There's a comment coming up here that definitely fits with that.
Not even just going without. Just to add to that hunger isn't necessarily they're going without with food, but they're going without nutrition-wise, right? Like, they go to the store and they just buy the cheap junk stuff, but they're actually not getting the nutrition that they need. Like young kids are going to school and they're not actually nourished, and so they're not being able to learn and they're not being able to develop because they're actually not getting the nutrients that they need, because nobody really knows what that is anymore, right? And they can't afford it. So if produce is more money at the store than the bag of chips, of course they're going to pick the bag of chips.
There's that.
Right?
To it.
And the junk. And if you
The
look
flip
at
side-
most of the stuff in our grocery store, most of it is not whole food. It's just garbage.
Garbage food, a lot of it processed.
Yeah, processed.
But I think on the flip side, farmers are not. We covered that earlier on in the conversation. We're not getting paid enough, right? Our margins are so tight and our costs are so high that we're not getting paid enough to really farm. Like it's a tough game for most farmers, right? But you go to the grocery store, nobody wants to pay more for their groceries either.
Right, yeah.
So
we've seen that in meat sales.
Either the middleman is taking too much, or they need to up the price of garbage food so people will, appreciate the price of real food better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something, because we can't lower the price of the food in the store.
Yeah.
Because farmers already aren't getting paid. Price of grain hasn't hardly moved in 20 years. Right. Yet loaf of bread in the last 20 years has quadrupled.
Yeah.
So somebody's making more money.
Even the meat sales, right? People that want the don't want the quality in their meat because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
Well, they do, but they can't afford the actual quality. So.
The price of meat hasn't, like for the farmer selling a beef, hasn't really moved much in 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
But in the store, you're paying a lot for your steak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked the other day. We have all our own meat, but I looked a lot of times at the prices, and it's high. Well, our government here has continually worked to make us consumers of government services, and people take advantage of it, and there's no accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, again, I don't know. I don't want to get on that conspiracy wagon, but there are a lot of people that say that's by design. It makes you a slave to the system. You get stuck in that system. And now you're dependent on government handouts, which is a great. I mean, if I was government, that's where I'd want you to be. You're going to do what I tell you to do because I'm the one giving you all the money and the food. So I'm often reminded of the story of Joseph in Egypt in the Bible, and Joseph had that dream of the 7 good years followed by 7 bad years. So they had all this food stored up, and nobody else in the country did. And then when 7 bad years came, people needed food, so they came to Pharaoh for food, right? And first they gave their money to buy food, and they gave their animals to buy food. Eventually, they sold their lands and then themselves to eat. And by the end of those 7 years, the Pharaoh owned the people, the land, the animals. He owned everything, and everybody was a slave. Something to think about. Same here with the regulations on expired foods going to soup kitchens. Those expired dates are to help with restocking foods in stores. Yes, anybody curious about that, most times it's perfectly good food. And if you see a bit of mold on it, cut the mold off. If we found a bit of mold on a tomato in the garden, we would cut it off and still eat the tomato. Would you find mold on the grocery store one, it goes to the pigs. And it's no different. You just cut that affected area off and eat the rest. Nice. This is the comment I was talking about earlier. People have the money for the new trucks, the RVs, the boats, the ATVs, the vacations, now solar, HVAC, home repairs, or anything else that we can show off to our friends, family, and neighbors. There's no priority. And that is definitely a problem. People
are entitled.
Yeah. So I see our quality of life.
We talked about this a lot in the last week.
The last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Our quality of life is going down, and yet we are still better off than most people in the entire world. Where our priorities are wrong. Our money is all allocated to pleasurable things or to
even their health. People are so unhealthy. They would rather eat junk than actually get healthy.
Well, I'm in that boat. Sugar is addictive.
It is addictive, but I'm just saying.
I like my cookies. I'm eating them right now.
I'm just saying though, is that there's just our health, our priorities, right? We would rather. Yeah.
But as far as toys, we've already set that down a long time ago. If it doesn't make us any money, we don't buy it. So we don't have an ATV, we don't have a snowmobile, we don't have a boat. If we were to get, we do have an RV, but we bought that a long time ago, and it actually has made us a lot of money because at that time we had to go for doctor's visits quite a bit for the girls, for their eyes, far away, and stay in the hotel while we were there. And so that RV was paying for itself then. We've also lived in it for 3 months while we were building a house.
3 months. Nice drive. It
More than
was
that?
like
Oh, 6 months maybe.
6 to
Oh, good
8.
point. Yeah, it was 3 months over there. Yeah, so
Nice
anyway, 8 or
drive.
9 months. And there's been other occasions. But we regret having it. We would love to sell it right now.
It's a good dotty house.
Yeah, it works good for
My-
visitors and stuff.
Yeah.
But aside from that, like we would get an ATV down the road once our farm expands, and we needed to maybe get cows. From
Yeah,
the
but not
far
even
pasture.
that. We've talked about not just an ATV, but like something that we could like. Right now, we've got a farm stand, so drive produce up and
Yeah.
down and both.
I'd still like to build an electric.
Yeah, electric, the
four-wheel
solar.
cart. That is my plan. I was hoping to do that this summer, but it's been a little tighter financially this year than last, so I don't know if we'll get around to that.
But years ago, I remember thinking that too. They started this breakfast program in the schools for the kids that their parents couldn't feed them healthy breakfasts or whatever, so the kids wouldn't go hungry. But if you went into a lot of those kids' homes, they usually had exactly that. The place was just packed full of everything you could possibly think of,
Yeah.
like the new game systems and the computer systems and the big TVs, and you'd shake your head and you think priorities. Like you should be able to feed your child if you just hadn't bought all that fancy stuff, and they obviously they've never been taught, and I feel
That's
like
what I
our
said
whole
earlier.
system
You
is
got to
messed
teach economics
up.
in school again.
Yeah, right.
Teach
the
people
whole
to balance
system.
a budget.
Yeah,
right.
But
People don't know that.
even cause and effect, right? I just feel like there's just lack of any of that. Like if you never tell anybody tell them no, they can't have something, or no, you can't do something, they never learn self-control either, right? Like, and I feel like we live in this world of demand, and it's got to be right. If I want it now, and I'm gonna get it whether I can afford it or not, kind of idea. And it's like you got to be able to tell yourself no, right? Nobody's holds anybody accountable, and yeah, if you want that, absolutely, you can have that at no 0% down now, and all these interest frees for X amount of months, and
I've seen the garden sheds.
yeah, like
3 months interest free, you can buy a garden shed.
right, but you gotta pay that eventually. Like hello, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of people are they don't think of that.
And we haven't really gone into tough times. I mean, I think it's coming. We need to get ready. Get out of that mindset of buying stuff and focus on what you need. Focus on your seeds. Focus on your, getting your pantry stocked up, getting food. I don't know if shortages are going to be coming, but the potential is always there. And if we get in that mindset, think how much more finance everybody would have if they stopped spending it on this
Needs and
stuff.
wants. We've said that for years, right?
Yeah, I remember my mom telling me years ago about, I think it was after World War II, it must be, unless it was farther back yet. But anyway, there was the story of this guy who, you knew the poor people from the rich people basically at church. Everybody wore a suit, I guess, and you could tell the poor people from the rich people because if you had them over for lunch, the poor people wouldn't take their suit jacket off. And the reason being is that the cuffs, I guess I don't have them, but the cuffs on the shirt would get worn thin, and same as the collars on the shirts. And they would take white fabric from the back of the shirt to fix that, so that presentably they still looked presentable and didn't look like they were all run down. But the back of their shirt was missing, so you could tell poor people from rich people because they wouldn't take their jackets off. Anyway, it's just a different world and a different mindset. These people had more priorities, I guess. They didn't spend their money on all this frivolous, useless things. They had food to eat. I imagine most of them had food to eat, and they did their best to still have some dignity, I guess, in society. They wouldn't have had all these toys that people have nowadays. Now people have all this stuff, like you said here, new trucks, RVs, boats, ATVs, vacations,
most
solar.
Of it's credit, though.
And then they're complaining that they're going broke.
Most of it's credit and payments. And the worst part about it is that people look at that and think that, oh, so and so's rich.
That's true.
But it's all false.
Which then causes the neighbor to
the
spend
neighbor
the
to
same
want to,
money.
and everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses, but
yeah,
they're actually not rich.
Hey, Tammy. Yeah, no, for sure. So, I guess it doesn't change anything, though, because if the food shortages are coming from the farm system down, then it doesn't matter how much we save if there's no food in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you have land or if you have any space, grow the food.
Mm-hmm.
We should all become more self-sufficient anyways. But what about all the people in the cities? Like when I I don't go to a city very often. I can't stand cities. But when I go to a city, there's no room to grow food.
Yeah, but some people have balconies. They can do all that little. Like they've got backyard gardens. There are things that people can do. Like you said, the cheap section in the grocery store, stockpiling rice, right? There's just things that people could do.
Lower your standards of what you want to eat.
Yeah, but even like stockpiling it, right? I've seen a lot of YouTube channels where they have like a spare bedroom in their apartment that they're using it as a pantry. They're starting to stock it up just to fill it, right? And under their bed,
So
there's these containers.
Cancel your
full
gym
of,
membership. I don't know, what is an average gym membership?
I don't know. I've
We
never
don't
been
go
to
to the gym. We have enough physical exercise here, but
yeah.
I don't. Would it
I
be?
think of when I'm weeding the garden, and that's gym enough for me.
$30 a month, or what do you think?
No idea. No
I'm
idea.
gonna use my friend Google here and see.
I
Where you got Google
right
on your
there.
phone here? Average gym membership. I see all these city folks go to gyms. On average, cheap gyms cost you $20 a month, while high-end gym membership costs you $170 a month. So that's in Canada, looks like.
And I don't think the gyms are working because I see a lot of people that.
A lot of very obese people, yes.
So
okay, well, I don't know. 170 sounds like a lot of money. $20 is a cheap one. Let's say $50 a month. How much rice could that buy you?
A lot.
I mean, no, not everybody wants to live on rice.
Not even that. The lentils or beans.
You could buy bulk and then fill up your apartment. I guess, yeah, all these people could. So that's something to look into because, 6 months from now or a year from now, there may not be that much food on the shelf. And there may be. Maybe there will be. Maybe there'll be lots of shelf.
Yeah.
Right, but I think...
but don't
I'll knock that over.
Don't.
We had some Mormon friends, and they were big on... I think the whole Mormon churches, that's what I understood from this guy.
At least that movie.
That you had to have, was it 3 months or 6 months?
6 months, just in case of a disaster.
Yeah. They figure in the end times, I think there's going to be a big disaster where you need stuff, but also
for
in
witnessing.
the here and now, being a witness.
Yeah, witnessing.
If there was a natural disaster in your area, you could open up your pantry and help the neighbors, yada yada. Yeah. So 6 months. I thought it was 3 months, but 6 months. 6 months would make more sense.
They recommended 6 months, but they always encouraged more if you could. Financially, I think it was 3 months.
3 months.
6 months for food.
Yeah, 6 months makes sense because winter's like 6 months too.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, they store it all away, and it just makes a lot of sense for people to do that. I think it's just wise for everybody to get into that mindset. Hi, Isaac. How are you? It's good for everyone to get in that mindset of storing some up. We may never have a disaster, but at the same time, you might break your leg and not be able to work.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You may, I don't know. I mean, yeah, if somebody gets sick in the family and you got to stay home for a while, you would have that safety net to fall on. And again, that's coming from our mindset. We're not believers of government safety net. Like, if you get sick, I don't believe the government should have to pay for me to stay home. I don't believe anyone of my neighbors should have to pay for me to get home. That's something I should be preparing for.
Yeah, and even like
or vice versa. Yeah. If I was to get sick, we should have a nest egg of something put away so that the family's looked after.
Yeah,
and it's not the government's responsibility. I had this discussion with a friend, and it was a religious discussion, I guess, but I believe first and foremost it's our duty as a family to look after that, and then secondly it's the church's responsibility. And I don't mean any particular brand of church, but God's people, wherever we are.
The Christian
as a Christian brother, it is my duty for any other Christian brother to make sure that they're looked after. And then after that, following that, if those people aren't meeting that, then the government's job would be to look after you, I guess.
Yeah, if you were at the end of your options, basically.
We should be willing to open our pantries up for our neighbors and our friends and help out. Any hoozles. Where are we? The illiteracy surrounding where food comes from is stunning. Yeah, we even noticed that too. We thought of doing that on the channel too. Maybe that's something we should look into. Is doing that, more educating. I just feel like I guess I don't think that way. I feel like everybody already knows what I know. So to teach people that, hey, this is where milk comes from, or this is where potatoes are grown, or
I guess
I feel dumb trying to teach somebody that.
But not even that. I feel so humbled that yeah, I just don't feel adequate enough, I guess, to tell people things.
Yeah, like even that's one thing you have a problem with canning. You do an
Yeah.
enormous amount of canning, but to teach someone canning, well, I don't know, you just don't feel like you're
Worthy?
important enough to.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't even think that I don't know. I teach my children and then hope that they'll be able to. I don't know. I just don't want to ever come across that I'm a know-it-all, right? I feel like we live in this generation of people that it's like they've done it once and now they know it all.
Well, they're
and
an expert.
yeah, they're experts and things like that. And I guess I.
1 week they're trying to figure out how to do it, and 2 weeks later they're telling everybody else how to do it.
Yeah, and I don't. I guess I just never want to come across as a know-it-all.
No, I'd rather ask questions and keep learning than
Pretend I
pretend
don't
I know
know.
everything.
So people can keep teaching me.
But on the flip side, there are a lot of people who realistically, I mean, you ask them where milk comes from, they say the store. Like they wouldn't know.
Right. Right.
Right.
I
they
thought
know
about
you need
even doing
fertilizer, but they don't
workshops
realize
here
where
and
that comes
stuff
from.
like that, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, people probably already know what we know.
I feel the same way.
I don't know. Right.
Nutrition ignorance is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They used to teach the 5 food groups in the store or in the schools, not the store.
That comes with a financial issue, which we
Yeah.
covered already. But like junk food is cheaper than real food.
Yeah, but they used to actually teach nutrients in school, right? When we were kids.
Yeah.
And now they don't. They don't teach any of that. Even doctors used to actually tell you to go home, eat healthy, sleep. Now they don't do that. They're like, hey, here's a pill I can give you, and you can.
If that doesn't work, I got 5
Yeah,
more.
if you don't, if that doesn't fix, come back and see me, and I will write you another script, right? Like, so there's just a whole breakdown of society, really.
Get rid of the middleman, and farmers would make a living.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Well, in many ways, we can become that middleman, and then I think we can also farm on less acres. Right? We are getting a fraction of the worth of our product because all these other people aren't getting that chunk.
One thing I love about the island is one thing I've noticed with that is they try to support their own. And for years and years and years, obviously, the island has really struggled economically and its
being distant from the south.
Yeah, it obviously. So that the government did try to bring in different things for businesses but the locals, one thing I really appreciate about them is that they really try to support their own businesses on the island. So if you can't find something at one store, they'll send you to another store right on the island. They won't send you off. They'll send you to the next local store to help that other business, right? And I really appreciate that because it's like now even we have a farm stand going and people are actually recommending our stand to people like not locals, like they're all these tourists are coming to our stand because so and so the local person down the road or at the campground or whatever is recommending our stand, and I'm like, that's really cool. We're locals now. They're recommending us, and it's so cool, right? Because it's small business trying to help each other, right? And like mine, we do the same, but it's just
we try to support.
Yeah.
Very local, and then otherwise at least the north.
Yeah, the north is
the
a
Northern
big,
Ontario farmers that we know that are growing in the same fashion as we are.
Yeah, try to do natural and organics and.
Tammy, hey there. I think I responded to that already, but hey there again. There is a spirit of entitlement that is rife in the younger generations here, taught that they deserve what they want and can't discern need from wants. Okay, now I might get into touchy ground.
It's not just
I don't
the younger
think that's
generation.
the younger generation. More and more, I think baby boomers are a big cause and problem of that, and I don't understand where that went. Not all.
We're not going to label all.
But if I would go to my grandparents' generation, they went through World War II, and they had like nothing. Mm-hmm. That generation worked hard to get back on their feet. Like especially in Holland, the place was bombed to snot. Like it was in bad shape, and there was no food, there was no money. People really had to work hard to get back on their feet again. It's that next generation where life just went good, and they look at a lot of the businesses, a lot of the big road construction businesses, regular construction business, supermarket chains, a lot of these things all spawned after the 50s and went really well. There was a lot of money to be made, easy credit, things went really well for a lot of years, and that money is now, those companies are huge. If I was to try to start a road construction company right now with a pickup truck and a shovel, nobody's going to hire me. They're going to take the other guys that are already established, right?
With the name brand.
Yeah, but I mean, things were really good for a long time. Those people made a lot of money, and now they're retiring. And I'm not saying they're not entitled to do that, but the grandparents never really retired like that. I mean,
No.
they handed it over to the next generation, and then they continued to work there, live in this little house stuck to the other house, and they didn't go on vacations for 6 months a year or travel the world, or those things were unheard of. People just didn't do that. So did that entitlement start with this younger generation, or could you agree that maybe that started with this baby boomer thing? That I'm starting to think that more.
But not even that. If
and then that taught it on to the
I
next
was
one.
gonna say the baby boomers raising their children and almost
because the younger generation now they're like, well, my parents have a 5,000 square foot home, so I want one. Not recognizing that the parents didn't start out with that.
Yeah, they had to work up to that.
Yeah. But I'm saying the grandparents started with a 500 square foot home and died with a 500 square foot home. They just lived with less.
More contentment.
So that they could help the next generation. And I feel like maybe the last generation started with less, built up to more, and wants to live more and die with more. And then this newer generation is living all on credit, trying to live like that.
Yeah.
There seems to be an imbalance, I think.
Yeah. You're right.
I'm not done that thought. I'm still working on it, but
might not happen tonight.
Nope.
His thoughts go on for days and days.
Isaac Geese, hello from Indiana. My family and I love watching your family, and we are praying for you. God bless. Thank you very much, Isaac, and your family. We appreciate all the prayers. We all need them, and it's good for the saints to build each other up. I need more prayers.
No.
That's because I have to put up with you. That's why they have to pray more for me.
No, we always need prayer.
Absolutely,
we appreciate every
Actually, you know what?
I've
been fighting another ear infection again. It's been a while. In a year, maybe, since the last major one.
Yeah.
This one does not want to go away. It's been like 3-4 weeks.
Well, he's very impatient, and we were trying to obviously heal it naturally, and natural remedies.
Yeah, we tried that for a week and a half.
Even more, but natural remedies obviously take a lot longer to heal or to work than antibiotics or whatever. So
I finally went into the hospital. To the emergency room. It took 4.5 hours, I think, for a doctor finally to look in my ear. That's another whole discussion. Medical care in this country is just going down the tubes. Anyway, look at my ear. She claimed there's no inner ear infection, just outer ear. I have tubes in both my ears. She could see the tube.
No, you have tubes in one ear.
Well, I had tubes in both ears. Yeah, this one's ruptured. But anyway, she looked in here. She says, "Yeah, no, they looks good. She can see the tube." And I never thought about it until I got home. I told her, I'm like, "Well, shush, she can see the tube." She's like, "You don't have a tube in that ear. It's ruptured." No, anyway, I don't know what the doc was looking at. She prescribed
and you couldn't
something.
even see the eardrum. It was so much pus.
Yeah, and she's like, "Yeah, we'll keep trying what you're doing. That should work, and then let me know how it goes." For one, how am I supposed to let her know how it works? Like, I'm not waiting another 5 hours just so I can say, "Yeah, it's working." And I'm like, no, I'm not satisfied with it.
We weren't going to talk about it.
I want some more stuff. So.
We were going to talk about it.
Anyway, they gave me more stuff. I've been battling with that. I appreciate your prayers. Anybody that's praying out here, please keep praying for my ear. I would like to have my hearing fully back again. Oh, we're getting behind. Hello, all. Hello, Isaac. Hello. I have an abundance of food that I give some away. That is a blessing. That's awesome. It's great when you can do that. It's such a blessing to be able to bless other people. We do need to remember to also accept that again, because otherwise the other person can't bless. Right? If you never accept something, even if you don't need it, if somebody wants to give you something, we have to be humble enough to accept that, to give the other person the opportunity to be able to bless someone. But it feels good all over to give people stuff.
Yeah.
I find.
Yeah, it does.
Unless they're like rude about it or something.
Even then.
You would be surprised how someone will be willing to learn from you and hear what you are saying. Just share what you know and point to expert others for more info. Yeah, I mean, we're hoping to try more of that, but Yeah, just don't want to be know-it-all, I guess.
I'm not very good behind the camera.
I think she's really good
I'm
at
not.
canning and things, and she needs to get more on there and doing that. But
Well, it's the confidence actually behind the camera to stand there and like right now. I know there's people listening and I'm talking with these people.
actually, one thing that changed is that we know a lot of our neighbors are now watching YouTube, and it's
actually, yeah.
now you go to the grocery store or something like, hey, I watched your thing, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
That's fine with somebody on the other side of the pond, but when it's close to home,
you kind of feel silly.
It does feel silly, yeah. We're just normal people. We're nobody special, and just doing our thing, I guess.
Yep.
I would agree some boomers are part of it, but as a boomer, I can say that we knew how to work and serve others, and nothing was free for us. However, how Generation X was raised was with more entitlement. Yeah, and I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I guess my argument was just that
the boomers actually worked for what they got.
Absolutely,
yeah,
they worked hard, and they seen their parents work hard.
Yeah.
But their parents, didn't feel the need to spend $500,000 at the end of their life.
Yeah, it's the contentment I think that wasn't taught. Like the older generation was content with being happy with this set of stuff. Like once you got that, like the lifestyle that you were looking for, then that was it. That was good. Where the baby boomers, I find it was never good enough, right? So like not all. It's obviously we're not trying to judge all of them. Like, but there's just this never content, right? Like it's just like, well, we've got that much, and then it kind of had to. Snowball effect. They made money, so they just carried it on, which is great. It's a good business sense, but it's
that part I don't mind. It's the need to spend though. Like I didn't find it as odd until we joined the Mennonites. And then what do you see in the Mennonite circles? The ones that we primarily know, anyway. I'm sure they're not like that.
No.
But they don't go and retire at 60 years old. These guys, some of these guys were like 75, 80 years old, still going to work every day.
Yeah.
Boys,
and
you're not going to retire.
Usually,
it's like, well, why would I do that? I mean, there's still people in the congregation that need my help.
Yeah.
So they still worked every day, maybe a few less hours a week, but working, making money to help, pay for the schooling of the younger kids for the other families or whatever.
One particular family that we knew actually moved to a different area where it was cheaper, so sold their farm, a good booming farm in one area, moved to another church to a different area so that their youngest child could farm, and then when that boy actually passed away, instead of them just selling everything and using that money and retiring, they actually took that money from that farm and they asked somebody else in the congregation if they wanted to run that farm. So they invested in another family. Then they took the extra money that they had, invested in another family, right? So they had multiple, so instead of retiring, and then they lived so humbly themselves, their house was so worn down that I'm like, why wouldn't they even put a new roof on? But they didn't feel entitled to do that. They took all their finances of abundance, finances that they were blessed with, and blessed other families.
Yeah, try to help other brothers and sisters in the church. Interest free. They didn't even charge any interest on it. I mean, they had been richly blessed by God. They can't take any of it with them when they die. And they, in turn, were doing their best to help the next generations.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do that. I'm not saying baby boomers have to do that, but I just see a difference. That is more in line, I feel, with what we would have seen 3 generations ago from the other generations. They didn't go to, I always say Cancun, but they didn't go on cruises. They didn't go on world tours or trips or feel the need to spend all their money before they die.
Like in what we always tell our children right now, it's like we're working so hard right now to help you children when you get older. We're not doing it for ourselves and our own, we're trying.
I hope to work till I die.
Yeah, right? But we're almost building a business for all the children. We try to encourage all the children to speak about what our business is and what we're doing, and so that we know that when we get, like hypothetically, our plan is if we get one child to farm, then once that farm is paid for, then that child will help them the next, and right, like as a group effort, we're trying to farm or not just farm, but like depending on what they want, we have to help each other, right? Like, and I just don't see that.
Anyway, there's no necessarily right or wrong. I'm just saying it feels like an entitlement aspect too. So yes, I agree with you that they worked for it. And this new generation, a lot of people, young people, just kind of sit around and don't do, nothing. don't do nothing. No, they do nothing. There's a lot of people like that don't work, they don't contribute to society. I don't agree with that part of the generation for sure.
No.
They feel entitled to handouts and they expect everything
Yeah.
for free. No. And I think that baby boomer generation appreciated work, worked hard for it. You know, they did all those things. It's just how they spend their finance, I think, is where I feel there's a sense of entitlement. Well, I worked for it,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. We might have just, caused some hot water there.
Yeah. Well,
these are just our opinions. Like, maybe we should.
now I'm even farther behind, man. Oh boy. Where would we? Some brewers are part of it, but Isaac, yes, I definitely think the old generation is not teaching enough, but I am very blessed to have parents that are teaching everything they know to me and my brothers and sisters. And that is a blessing. That's great. I didn't really have that. You did in many aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents live more in touch with the land, and they're butchering their own meat and things like that.
Yeah.
Right. And even your grandparents, I guess. I never really knew my grandparents, but your grandma did a lot of canning and stuff too. I lost where I was again. Right there. Tammy, we all need each other and be as one. Be praying for each other. Amen. One big family. We don't look at so much as, you're in that church, you're in that church. We're all belong to God. We're all his children. And we're all in this together. Grandma so happy homestead.
Definitely be praying.
That's a new one. We'll be definitely praying. We appreciate that very much. Thank you. Hello, Vonnie. I'm guessing that's her name. Yes, it is. Isaac, yes, my neighbor has faithfully given a sweet corn for 3 years now. We are new in the area, so we are blessed. We also have a garden and goats and chickens.
It was a blessing.
You can't survive without goats and chickens.
I know.
We need goats. She likes to get rid of the goats. But I'm like, we have
sheep
to.
are the new goat.
They're boring. They never get out.
Yeah, they're the new goat.
You never have to chase them out of a garden. Why would you want a sheep? You need goats. They give you more exercise. At least one goat. Oh, man.
Goats.
Well, look who is live. Hi, you guys. Hey, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
We are live, yes. We haven't done that in a while. I think last time we went live, we said we were going to do it more often. And then that was like 3 months ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Hello, Sean. How you think? People nowadays don't know the word contentment, sadly.
We don't either.
Yeah.
We suffer from that.
We work on it, but yeah. Contentment.
We talk about it a lot, and we discuss it a lot, and we try a lot, but then we fail.
It's worthwhile thinking about why that is too. It is hard in this society, like we said earlier. Other people have all this stuff, and then you feel like you need it.
Yeah, we were discussing that the other day. That like we live with a composting toilet and an outhouse, and we're totally fine with that. We're completely content with that, even though we have this big house, and we're completely fine with that. And then people come for a visit, and we're like, what are they gonna do with the toilet, right? And then we kind of get in this, and then like the reaction that like usually everybody goes into the bathroom and then they come out, almost like, and then like we'll see our guests, they won't either use the toilet again while they're here, or like they'll like, oh, we gotta go, quick, run out of the door. And
not everybody.
Yeah, I know, but
actually,
like,
the smaller, the younger the people, the less they care. The older people seem to care more.
But it's like, yeah, they kind of like, it's like they forgot that just the last generation had outhouses, like it's right. But like again, yeah, it's and then we start to question, well, maybe we should put in,
running water and. The trouble is, a flush toilet would take so much more water. We don't even have a well.
We don't have a well, but the creek, but then we start questioning. Well, maybe we should put a septic. Maybe we should this. Maybe that. But like, if we didn't have that, and I'm not saying it's again, it's our own brains that are doing it to us, but it's almost like it puts pressure on us that we're like, oh, maybe we should do this, and because what are people thinking of us, and all these different things.
It's so practical living this way.
I know, but like. I think of it when in the wintertime we want to go somewhere and we don't have to have our wood stove going. We don't have to worry about plumbing freezing. Any of that. It's just great, You don't have to worry about the toilet bowl cracking because we don't have a toilet bowl.
Agreed. Contentment is truly a key part of it. Yeah, absolutely. Grandma learning that word of contentment is a beautiful thing and a beautiful journey, and allowing God to work his ways and breakthroughs. Happiness is different when you know contentment. Yep, amen. You won't be unhappy because you're just content with the way things are.
I have more contentment than he does.
Yeah, I'm getting better as we get older, I think.
Yes, and I'm getting worse.
I think when I was younger, I was much more worried about keeping up with
yeah, but I always say that he spoiled me for so many years that now I feel entitled.
Yeah, when we met, you were far more content.
Yep, and then you're like, no, my wife won't have
you
this.
Deserve better.
You deserve this. You deserve that. You deserve that.
What have I done?
I know, and now I'm like, oh no, I can't go without that.
Created a monster.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But you were not content. I remember once we went camping in a tent, and he hates camping in a tent.
I like it now.
Now he's getting better.
I like it now.
But we went in a tent, and he grumbled and complained because, of course, it spits every time you got to clean up the tent, and it's sand on the bottom, and it's just like,
Hey, last time we camped in a tent, we slept in a tent there a week ago, and we had an air mattress, and the air slowly went out. So I'm like twice as heavy as she is. So I woke up on the floor. She was still contentedly sleeping on air because all my air was on her side. But by morning, we were both on the floor. I don't know. We're getting older. I don't appreciate sleeping on the ground as much anymore.
You're right, but okay.
When I went to the East Coast, I was going to add to that just a little. When I went to the East Coast, I took Ben with, and he's like, "Well, we took an air mattress for each of us." But he slept on the floor every night. On the ground every night of the tent, because if he blew up the air mattress, then I'm going to have to take the air out and roll it back up. so I guess it was laziness, maybe, I don't know. But he had no problem sleeping on the floor or on the ground. It didn't bother.
So this is years ago. We were in a tent. We were at a campground, and he had to have coffee, and he had to have cream in his coffee or sugar. No, he had to have sugar in his coffee. Well, I forgot to pack sugar. So he literally had to get in the van and drive to the store at the campground to get. And I'm like, honey, just go without sugar. Like once, just go. We hadn't even had breakfast yet. But nope, he could not be content with that. Well, now he could. I know he could now, but no, he could not. I thought it was so ridiculous. Like you could just wait and have your one coffee without sugar.
To add to that, I could go with that. I just didn't feel the need to.
No.
Yes, I could have. But there was no need to.
I know.
That's what he always says. I had money to buy sugar.
But he could now. I know he could. He could, honestly. He's
I do quite
much more content.
I used to hate black coffee. Now
much more content. His priorities have changed.
Hey, we're still behind. We got to get caught up here.
All right. Start reading.
Well, I got to figure out where I am. Every time I tip the phone, it moves. Now, you keep talking while I look here.
Well, I'm trying to find your spot.
You're teaching your children important values of life.
I hope so.
We try.
We have bad habits too, and I'm sure we're teaching them lots.
We missed Sean here. The cycle of self-gratification. I do not agree with that as a lifestyle.
It's hard though.
I think we're way behind on this thing. Like 2 minutes.
Keep going.
No, on the thing, because we're still. Yeah, we're like 2 minutes behind. Grandma, what took many people a long time to acquire, so many of this generation expect right away? Yep. Agree 100%. My son, when he was younger, had a really good friend, and their sure went bad. And so the toilet became a bucket. Their sewer. Probably their sewer went bad. And their toilet became a bucket. I want to say that my son had the best time at that house. Remember, people are there to embrace you and enjoy you. It's not about the toilet. It's not about the other stuff. Remember, it's about you they're there to see. And that's what we remind ourselves. I mean, if you don't want to come to our place again because we use a pail, then you're probably not the kind of people we need to hang out with. Because we got a pail. Actually, I mean, it's nice. Actually, we should do a video of our bathroom sometime, maybe. Clean the pail up first. But it's just like a nice area. It's got a toilet seat like anywhere else, except there's a pail underneath it. My eyeballs aren't that good. I can't see that far away. Where are we? Brace you there to see you. Tinker, but sheep won't give you the stories goats will. I agree. Thank you very much for that.
He doesn't need any more ammunition.
I like goats. They're more interesting. What was that?
A baby.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
where is he?
Where have you been?
Oh, man. The
Father of the Year award goes to.
Well, I got a lot of kids, eh?
He lost the baby.
Grandma, I used to think I had to have stuff to be happy. I will tell you, over the last 6 years, I've gotten rid of so much stuff, and I am more happy now. Yep, we got a
I
lot of
actually
clutter.
find that, like, I walk around my house and I feel so miserable because we have so much clutter. And
We
I'm
have
like,
decluttered a
how
lot.
did we get to this point again? That I'm just like, it's just awful.
Yeah,
And
where's
I
it come
find
from?
the more my children, like, I feel so bad because
She's looking for water.
I feel so bad because a lot of times, like, I'll be like, oh, we should get rid of them. And I'm like, oh, they're so sad to get rid of things. And, like, I used to be better at telling them we don't need things.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, well, maybe we can keep
We do it for ourselves, too, because it's simpler to have some stuff.
Yeah.
Like, certain things I think are necessary, tools and things like that we need. But like you said, when we first met, I could do everything with one skill saw and a hammer. And now, I have a skill saw and I have another saw for this and another saw for this. And it does increase production.
Yeah.
You do have more stuff, but on the flip side, I never had any. Well, I did. I had a cordless drill. But now I have cordless everything, right? So, I don't know. It's not all bad.
Well, some of your things, though, as I say, we make money with some of your tools, right? So that's a little bit different. If you're standing at a company or at a customer's place and your tools are smoking and
not working properly,
like, you're not going to get paid for the job. And now we have a boy that needs some tools with you, right? Like, so you can't both be standing there with one drill, right? So you need two, right? Like,
yeah,
so
that's part
a
of his
little
education.
bit of that too. Right?
Well, two boys. Waylon uses my saw a lot.
Well, and then they'll take them to work, and then I have nothing at home, and so then I need a drill, just in case I need to do something.
Yep.
And now we're already at 3 or 4 drills.
JT, thank you all for your channel. Too late for coffee, but willing to take all the homesteading advice you have. Well, I don't know if I have any advice. Get started as soon as you can.
Ask questions.
But ask questions. That's the best way for me to give advice. I don't know how to give you advice. You ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. And thank you for joining us. And it's never too late for coffee. Ever. I could drink it and then crawl into bed. It's not too late. It's good for you. Never stunted my growth either. People say coffee stunts your growth, but I made it to 6'3", and I'm not sure how many pounds. I'm not stunted.
No. He's a giant. All right. Well, I drink decaf. She drinks decaf.
You have to drink decaf.
All right. Well, shall we call it a night?
Well, I was going to say an hour. We're almost at an hour and a half. Anybody got any other questions? Fire away. I have to wait 2 minutes for you to hear that, though.
It's not 2 minutes, is it?
Yeah, it's behind quite a bit.
Could it be that you're behind? No? I thought maybe your thing was just behind.
No, just a delay. Thoughts on a homesteading starter pack? Dogs, goats, and chickens.
Don't worry about the dogs.
It really depends on how much area you have. Dogs aren't necessarily part of the homestead. I mean, if you have livestock protection dogs, but even then, they're not a necessity because you can just lock them up at night. That's what we've been doing with our chickens now with great success. We lock them up.
They need to be locked.
Yeah, they need to be locked up tonight. But we locked them up every night now. Last year, we lost a pile of them because the chickens were too dumb to get locked up at night. And so now we've been training them. For one, all their food. I think last year we had their water outside. Now their food and water is all inside. So they have to go in and out or starve to death. And so they're figuring it out really well. And at nighttime, most of them are in the camp. We still have the camp trailer. If you're new, we use a camp trailer for a chicken tractor. And then we move it around in the field. And so most of them are pretty good at climbing in there. Last year they were hiding underneath a lot. And I think that's where the coyotes and foxes were getting. Mostly coyotes in the fall.
Yeah.
So a dog would help with that, but I mean, if you can get them locked up, then that's good too. That'll work. What else were you saying there? Dogs, goats, chickens. Chickens, I think, are essential. They're great at moving dirt, cleaning up bugs and stuff. Ducks, I would say get ducks. If you have a garden, get ducks. Ducks are great for slugs and all sorts of stuff. they eat so many things around the house.
Yeah, even ticks. If you're in an area
Yeah.
that have ticks, we've never had a tick issue because
No, and we have geese too. We love our geese. Absolutely love our geese. They wander around and
they make noises when there's bad things around.
They bark. If somebody comes in our laneway, and that's like, I don't know, what, 300 feet from here or something, 400 feet, the geese start cackling right away, so you know somebody's coming.
Yeah.
But they're good for keeping the grass short and stuff.
Goats, too. I wouldn't recommend unless you have good fences.
Yeah, they get out of the barn.
And if you can't afford fences, I would not recommend goats right away.
Unless you want to keep them locked up and feed them in the barn. But.
Yeah, if you have a building, that's something. But
as far as milk goes, I would definitely recommend a goat.
A goat over a cow because obviously it's less to feed.
Yeah. Good genetics would be important. Our goat gives us 3 liters of milk per day. Mm-hmm. So we don't really need a cow. 3 liters is more than enough for us.
Yeah.
Right now we don't need any more than that, and we don't really feed her a whole lot. She just kind of runs around the yard dragging a skid. The skid is tied to her to keep her from getting in the garden. Yeah. And it sounds bad, but I mean she has no issues dragging the skid around, but it keeps her from getting certain areas.
Yep. Yep. So she does great on it.
A little farther, he says he's looking at 20 to 40 acres and looking at keeping them secure at night, the animals. Yeah. So, I mean, the dogs definitely would work for that, but
one thing I found with a dog is that it's just another obviously expense to feed.
Yep.
Unless you get a puppy and raise it with the animals and then know exactly what you're doing to raise it to do its job. One thing we found with the dogs, we did the puppy thing, but then they worked really well in the one pasture that they were kind of raised in until a certain age. They were really, really good. It worked out great. And then, but once we moved them to a new pasture with the animals, it was almost like they didn't know what their job was anymore.
Well, I didn't know where the boundary was.
Yeah, it was almost like
they started protecting the house and the yard and like
and then it just became a nuisance, right? And I do see that on a lot of the homesteading channels. It's like they can never keep the dog where it needs to be, and it's just another, like, they eat a lot of food, right? And
now, if you want a dog anyway, I wouldn't.
If you want a dog, and you know the predator dogs are great, for that, even a house dog, or a yard dog.
We have the 3 little dogs. If you've seen them on the videos, absolutely love those little dogs, and they're great. You can take them places. A big dog, you can't.
Yeah.
That's another thing somebody else would have to look after if you need to go away for something.
For sure. So for a dog, to us, a dog has never been a first top priority. In Saskatchewan, we lived in Saskatchewan. The dog was actually, they gave government grants to have dogs because there was such a predator issue out there.
And yet we didn't need them because our goats were in at night every night.
Yeah, but I did notice that the dogs would bark in the evening, and it kept the coyotes and the wolves away from the building. Mm-hmm. Right? So we didn't have to worry about a lot of things. Chickens is definitely a must. It's a good starter.
Oh, well, that answers a few things anyway. Yeah, I love chickens. They lay eggs. They're very practical. They don't take a ton of feed. They can eat grass. They eat grubs, bugs. They lay eggs, and you can eat them.
Yeah, one thing with
chickens...
Get
heritage breed chickens, possibly, because then there's more meat to eat.
Yeah, and it's a multi-purpose bird.
Meat and eggs.
You can eat, and so when they get old, you can use them as meat instead. Another thing with chickens, I would say it could be an issue, is if you're in a wet, damp climate in the winter when you put them in, it's really hard to keep them dry, and a lot of parasite issues. But we do give them pumpkin seeds, and that really helps with parasites in the winter and stuff. But that would be the only concern I'd have with chickens, is in the winter time it's harder to keep them.
Isaac, I would encourage you to teach your son to save money and buy his tools. That's what my dad has done, and I'm very grateful to have quite a collection of cordless powered tools. So our oldest boy, he's moved out, he works, and he is spending money on tools, and I don't feel that so bad because, again, they're useful. Our other children that are all at home do not actually earn an income. We feel it's kind of silly for them to have an income. Maybe they'd have $20,000 or $30,000 saved up in the bank.
They're not that old yet either.
Where the family at large could use it. Our goal is to get this established and then purchase the next one, whether that be a house or a farm for the next kid, and onwards. So we just have a collective pot where it goes in, and we all have to be responsible for what we spend it on. That includes my wife and I. We don't just take that money and blow it on what we want.
Right.
We don't go on holidays and stuff, because it's not just ours, it's the family money and the family income. Larger purchases would also get discussed with our older children. Aside from that, I mean, their birthday money, of course, that's theirs, that goes in their savings, and anything specifically been given to them. If I do a job and somebody specifically gives, $20 to my son or whatever, that's his money that stays. Or when they're running the stand, they get tip money, things like that. That's theirs.
But they don't just get to take that money and do whatever they want with it.
No, we put it in the bank.
They decide they want to put it in their bank, or sometimes they'll come to me and it'll be one of the other kids' birthdays. And they'll say,
for that.
"Can I buy so and so a birthday present?" And I'll be like, "Well, that's fine, but let's keep it at a minimum," and things like that.
Cora has spent some of her money before doing a subscription, I think, for somebody.
Yeah, like a gift.
To a religious magazine. She really liked a magazine. What do you call that?
Yeah.
Thing that comes out once a month. So yeah, but great. Yeah, spending on useful stuff. Kids blowing money on candy or I just think that's dumb. And everything that our children need, it is our obligation as parents to provide. So our children shouldn't have to purchase anything that is needful, and anything that they want, well, then we decide whether, sometimes they get some candy if they want some, and sometimes they don't. There's nothing wrong with getting a no. But children at that age, we don't feel the need to spend it. Tink, I need to get off here. Good catching up. Good night. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. I imagine you're off by now. It took me a while to get to that comment, but thank you very much. Good night, Tinker's wife. JT, definitely looking at keeping them secure at night. I'm looking at 20 to 40 acres. Predators will be fox, mink, coyote, and soon wild pigs. Oh boy, wild pigs would be fun too, maybe. Isaac, and I'm a DeWalt fan. That is what we have.
Yeah, we do too.
So I started with Mickey. Well, years ago I had DeWalt. Then I bought my first farm. That's a long time ago. And farming income, I couldn't afford to buy DeWalt. I actually bought Rigid at that time, with dirt cheap. And then from a friend of mine who was a contractor, when we worked together, he switched to DeWalt, and I bought all his old Makita stuff. And I ran with that for quite a few years. Yeah. But I find Makita's DeWalt's much better. And
depending on the DeWalt.
Our oldest son, he bought a lot of DeWalt when he was in construction. And then he had a few extras that he gave me that came in a kit or whatever that he didn't need. And so slowly but surely I've been buying. I pretty much have everything in DeWalt now. But I kept my Makitas. I mean, I'm not going to throw them out. It seems kind of silly. Good night, Patty. That's for Tink. And JT, definitely guineas and ducks.
Oh, I don't like guineas.
Guineas, you mean the guinea fowls, those noisy things we had?
Noisy.
I like them, actually. I think they look cool.
That's about it. They were so noisy and useless. Well, the only good thing they were is that they would get eaten first.
It seemed like they did.
They always got eaten first before the chickens.
So save the birds we want.
So we knew that we had a predator problem because the guineas got eaten. Yeah. They always made noise. People, like, my geese will make noise for a reason. You could go out and actually look and find an issue where the guineas, I just found they always made noise for no reason.
And our geese don't really get eaten. The babies did. Last year we released 2, so we raised them separate. We have one now again in the chicken tractor with the chickens till he's big enough, and then we released them. So last year we did that. We released 2, and like immediately one went missing. Yeah. Like I would say within a half an hour we had no idea.
Yeah, we thought that maybe the other male, like goose, like territorial, had killed it.
But first chased them away, but we searched and searched and searched. No trace.
So the only thing we could think of is the fox came in and
just happened to be there at that time, grabbed them and gone.
Yeah.
Which we've lost a lot of ducks to this year because we're down to 2 ducks again.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the ones you had.
Well, we were having a lot of issues with raccoons this year too.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Isaac, I am full-time construction. I think it is wise to only buy if you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. You can get really, there's so many cool tools out there now. You can really get hung up on that, and you can spend a lot of money on tools. It's not necessarily necessary. JT, thank you. Grants for dogs. I'd love that. Definitely good fences for goats and dogs. Got it. Terriers for rats. Yeah, they work good for that. LGDs for bigger problems. What is
livestock guardian dogs?
I gotcha. Yeah. Here we don't have any rats. We have squirrels, but they're not really a nuisance. There was one trying to get into our house. I took care of him. But other than that, we don't really have a problem with that. We have one cat around here. We hardly ever see mice. This week, actually, I moved some stuff in the yard and I did see a mouse underneath there, but almost never see mouse. So the cat is doing a good job on that, or something else. There are some snakes around here. I don't know. Do you think snakes here would eat the mice? They're pretty small, gardener snakes.
Probably.
And we have the Massasauga rattler, or whatever they call that thing. Yeah. It would be big enough to eat a mouse. But we don't see much for mice here anyway.
No.
And then our dogs. Our dogs do. They caught a snake too.
Yeah, the pigs would.
The little dogs.
Pigs would eat the snakes.
Pigs do, yeah. Jennifer Neufeld, God bless. Thank you very much. Looking down here, I guess I should look up there. Thank you very much. Isaac, what you said about the tools is a wise idea. I agree. I am working with my dad. It is a true blessing to work together as a family. It is so rare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something that I guess I didn't have growing up so much. I worked with my brother a lot. Actually, I missed that. We had a lot of good times together. All my brothers, I guess. I have 6 brothers, so we did work a lot together on the farm. But as far as being shown stuff, yeah, I had a lot of good people that I worked for that taught me a lot, and I really valued that. And I feel as parents, it is our obligation, our duty to instill that into our children as much as we can. I want them to know everything that we know, and then run with that, learn more. And so we really made that kind of our life's mission, I think, to teach them. There's so much more. Everybody nowadays is all stuck on diplomas. Got to go to college. And you know what? If the kid wants to do that, great. And I think it's important to learn to read and write, and it's good to get education. And kids should get an education. But there's more to education than just books. You know, there's life skills that they're not being taught in school. There's economic skills that are not being taught in school. And there's business not being taught in school. Work ethic does not get taught in school. Everybody graduates. That doesn't teach anybody work ethic.
Right.
Right.
That's like we said years ago when we started homeschooling. Every moment is a teachable moment.
Yeah.
Is what we kind of had to instill in our brain. Now that we're homeschooling our children, every moment is a teachable moment. So like anything we're doing throughout the day, it always has to be in our minds that we are the teachers. We are teaching them anything.
And I had a lot of patient people in my life. There was a lot of men that I worked for that I really looked up to that were patient in teaching me. And I really value that. And we need to learn that as parents.
That you worked with, yeah.
People that as parents, we need to learn that to be patient with our children, to take that time. So there's a lot of times it takes, it would be so much faster for me to do the job. But it's like, well, if I do it, he or she will never learn to do it. So we just have to watch them fumble and fiddle and you know, take a half an hour to do something that would take me 5 minutes. But you know what, the next time, he or she won't take a half an hour. It might be reduced to 20 minutes, and then the next time it'll be 10 minutes, and eventually they'll be just as good at it as I am. And we need to take that time, whether that's sewing or canning or climbing or pruning or chasing an animal. Chasing animals is really frustrating with children because they always stand in the wrong spot. And it's like, you know what, maybe it would be better if you would sit in the house somewhere and I'd do it, but then they'll never learn. And they're all getting better. If in the video, sometimes you might hear me, telling them where to stand if we're chasing an animal, and I'm not barking at them, but I'm telling them you have to be a fence. If you ever looked at a fence, you don't have posts just randomly all over the place. You're in a line and you're working together to move the animal. Yeah, they're getting off it rather. It just takes time to learn.
Yeah, and certain children are better at that than others, right? It's like everything. Certain children have better skills in certain things than others, and we just have to work with those. That's
another thing we scratch our heads and we think about a lot. Okay, so what, some of our children, you can say, oh, this is definitely something they're excelling at, and we're gonna gently push them in that direction, right? And then there's other ones that are totally different direction. They're not interested in that so much, and so it's neat how they're all different. Yeah, this stand has been good. The roadside stand is really helping to teach finance and business to our daughter. She's working up there lots and learning that people skills. She's dealing with people. It's her stand. If I'm up there and a customer looks at me, I don't look at her. It ain't got nothing to do. Well, not her, but like her daughter. It's got nothing to do with me. It's you ask her what the deal is today. She gets to decide if she wants to sell the corn a little cheaper or a little more money or whatever. Yeah. And then we can discuss that later at the end of the day. If she sold all the corn for $1, that wouldn't be very good. But if a customer, if you sound like you're going to lose the sale over $1, well, then give them $1 off and let them have the corn, right? So
don't get any ideas, local people.
Yeah. Be haggling her all week. Yeah. So yeah, very cool. If you can work with your family, that is great. It's awesome. Marilyn, I've enjoyed the conversations. Need to leave. Have a blessed week.
You're probably
Thank you
gone
for
by
joining us,
now.
Marilyn.
Thank you.
Marilyn is one of our prayer warriors. We really appreciate her comments for sure. Tammy, it's time for me to get ready for bed. Good night and God bless. Thank you for joining us again, Tammy.
Yes, thank you very much.
This live is for Tammy because I wasn't planning on going live, and then she commented that we haven't done it in a while. Here we are, an hour and 40 minutes later. We're still on here.
Every moment is a learnable.
Every moment is. So Archie's Garage, that's a new one too, isn't it?
I don't know.
Maybe. Every moment is also a learnable moment.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And I like that. I remember my Opa telling me that. I didn't, like I said, they were all living in Holland, and so I didn't spend a lot of time with them. But I remember him distinctly telling me that because he was like 80 years old or something. And I remember him saying something, I don't remember the exact conversation, but something along the lines that he learned this thing. And I was like, what? You're 80 years old. You know everything, right? I don't know how old I would have been at that point, but it just struck me like, what do you mean you're learning? You're 80 years old. You never stop learning.
It's true. I actually feel the older I get, the more that I actually am learning. Because, like, as a child, I struggled a lot in school, and I struggled with social, whatever, had no friends, and all that other stuff. But now I'm at a point in my life that I actually just feel like I have everything that I ever wanted in life, right? I wanted to be a mother. I wanted to have lots of children. I wanted to have this lifestyle, but I'm at a point of just happiness in my soul that I just learning, right? Like with canning too, it's like I really, really enjoy that, and food preservation, and lately I've been studying homeopathic medicines and natural herbs and things like that, and it's like I just I'm learning so much, and it's like then I tell him something and I'm like, oh, it's so exciting, right? Like, right, where I just for so many years I felt like I just struggled and I just could never learn anything, and no information would ever stay. And now I'm like, and not just that, I'm learning with my children and my family. And right, if I don't actually remember something, then one of my kids will say, hey, do you remember remember what you told us this, blah blah blah. So it's like, it's just really cool.
I also find it's very disappointing you run into people who are like just satisfied. This is where I've learned enough. This was good enough,
Yeah, I know it all. Almost attitude.
Yeah. Not even necessarily know it all, but just they have no desire to grow anymore. They don't want to learn anything new. They're happy with what they know. And if you tell them something new, they're like, nah, I've never heard of that kind of thing before.
Yeah, you can't. Oh, that can't be true.
No, it can't be true. I've never heard of that. And it's like, bend your mind, allow yourself to just.
Yeah, but again, I think that comes with lack of interest in that topic, right? Like I think of where I am in my life, and like I'm learning and I'm developing in those things because I'm so interested and I'm like on fire with those thoughts.
Do you don't think part of it's pride too, though?
Maybe? Well, some of it could.
Depending on the topic.
I do find there's a gap of generation where a lot of older people don't want to listen to younger people like us, and they think they know more. Right? Like, but again, I think it's a topic thing. I think if they're not interested in the topic that you're trying to tell them, they're like, oh, okay, big yawn, and then move on.
I find it was with a lot of religious people again, too. There's a difference. That's a different topic. Yeah.
We could be here all night, folks.
Religious people and people with faith, I think. Yeah. And I find a lot of religious people, when it comes to religion, too, they close mind. Like, I know some people that will not talk to Jehovah's Witnesses. Absolutely not. They see him come and they shut the door, and I'm like, why? It's not like they're going to kill you. It's just, I have some good friends that are Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, we don't agree on everything, but we have great conversations, and I'm willing to sit down and listen to them. And then it's like, hey, yeah, you got some good points. And I got some friends that are Mormons. I got some good friends that are Muslims. I actually got to call him sometime. I haven't talked to him in a while. I think it's great. We need to open. That's just on the religious scale of things, but we need to open our minds to things, and also homesteading, or even going back to using the pail as a toilet. Some people are like, no, can't do that. Well, really, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, how long have we had flush toilets in the world? They're pretty new, right?
True.
Just being able to just open your mind. You don't have to accept new things, but just open your mind to new possibilities, new ideas. I don't know. There's so many different things and ways of doing things. If you just stick with the way you've always known and never learn something new, that's not good.
And how boring, though.
That too.
right?
Yeah.
Like I just think how boring that. I feel like sometimes that when I get unsettled in life or unsettled in my mind and in my soul, it's like because I'm just not learning anything and I'm kind of stuck. I'm not, I'm not excited for something, right? Like it's like, okay, well, let's get excited again for something.
Interesting enough, we covered contentment. How does that fit in? Because
I don't know.
Because a lot of those people that are stuck that way and are not interested in
Simple
looking different ways, they're just content with the way things are. So I have a lack of contentment. I'd be first to admit that. I like change. I like to, okay, this is working, but can we make it work better? That's something I'm always on. And you're like, why don't you just leave it alone?
But yeah,
I'm like,
it works fine. Just stop it.
But I'm like, yeah, but
move on.
If we do this and we do that, I think we could save 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's a lack of contentment, but it also allows me to just look into new possibilities. It's interesting. It's worth exploring again too. I got more things to think about tonight. Yeah. Oh boy, where are we? Everyone was a learnable moment. Amen. Cheryl, hey Cheryl. Hello, dear ones. You probably sent that a long time ago. Doesn't have a time. Sean, sorry, daughter called. Had to take it. Well, anyways, great to see you guys. No problem, Sean. We understand.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Cheryl, that's awesome. Laugh out loud. Wow. Amen. I don't know what that was all about.
All of the things we talked about in the last 20 minutes.
Arches, yes. If you settle your soul, your mind will open.
This is true.
Grandma, I'm 64 years old, and every day feels like a day in college. When we quit learning, life is boring.
Amen.
She's a smudge on her screen. I had her to read. Yeah, for sure. Keep learning.
Amazing.
Learning's great. Jennifer Neufeld, amazing. Cheryl, have you ever made elderberry syrup?
Well, I know because the birds always get my elderberries every year. And my mother, who said she was going to give me elderberries because she has lots of elderberry bushes, never got to it. Mother?
I don't know if Mother's still on here.
But I haven't. I would love to, and I would like to have that on hand, but I haven't got to it. I
thought you made it out west.
No, I always bought the elderberry chewies for the kids, the natural remedy.
Okay, what is it? Like a natural?
It's an immune booster.
Oh, okay.
And antiviral. I took them all the time.
Sure, I do remember. Okay, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of then. Sean, I learn something new every day, and I love learning. I often joke that if you learn one thing every day, then you can go home. So we are home. We work at home, so I guess we don't really get to go home.
All right, that is awesome.
That is awesome, Cheryl. I have been learning about herbs for health, also. Very good. Grandma, don't you think when we look at the same things we knew before, but we're willing to look at it different, you learn a great depth to it, greater depthness to it. Yep.
Even if we like walk around our yard and stuff, it's so interesting. Back to the herbs that just popped into my brain. How many just weeds? I just found out the other day that the weed that's popped up in the garden that everybody hates is actually lamb's quarter. And I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. Like, that's like an edible weed, and everybody hates it, but you can eat it, and it's great.
Healthy.
And it's really
those
healthy.
cactusy looking things that are they come up when the soil gets disturbed? I forget what they're called.
Melon? No.
Oh, I forget the name.
I'm not sure, but it's got so many, and there's just so many things that I wander around the yard. And
yeah, and you found out the leaves were good for toilet paper.
Yeah.
We haven't tried that.
Yeah.
They don't look that comfy.
Yeah, but like so many things that we just don't know anymore. But I'm like, it's so exciting because you have such a variety, and it's like, oh, I wonder what this plant is, and then you research it, and it's like, oh, well, that's so beneficial, and yeah, it's just amazing.
Grandma, my mom is 83 and she's always sharing new things she's learned even at 83. That's awesome. That's great. That's the kind of person I want to be. 83, still learning new things. Hopefully alongside my grandkids, working together, and they can teach me things. Have that great relationship together. Nancy, hey Nancy. Heard from you in a while. So happy to hear you are happy in the learning of the natural side. I would rather do all I can naturally and eat healthy. Amen. Amen. Cheryl, hi sweeties. Cheryl, yes. Cheryl, I ordered some to learn to make my own. The elderberries. That'd be good. Grandma, our elderberry bushes are about 4 feet tall. It's going to take forever. Alan, hi guys, you've been missed. Hi Alan. Haven't heard from you in a while either.
He's not on Facebook anymore.
No, there's too much stuff on there. JG, thank you for sharing. God bless and good night. Thank you for joining us. It's going to be a waiting session now. Grandma, I have to order the elderberries, and I've been doing it little by little over the last several years. And we make elderberry syrup, but I'll be glad when one day we can have our own berries. Yeah, we're so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We've planted a lot of things. We've got to do another garden tour sometime. Maybe cut the weeds down first so they don't see all your weeds.
Yeah.
But we've got lots of apples planted now. The peach trees did make it or didn't make it. Verdict's still out on that. So last year we planted 3 peach, 3 pear, and 3 apple. Not really a lot to do anything with, but it was kind of fun. This year we planted, how many more apples did you plant? 50?
Yeah, we did a video on that. 50.
I think so. Early in the spring anyway when we did the garden. And that's it? No pears down there?
No.
Oh, you had a pear down there too. Anyway, we'd like to plant more of them yet. But then also berry bushes, you know, haskcaps and elderberries and raspberries, strawberries. We're hoping to get all of that here. And, you know, for ourselves first and foremost, and for educational, for health, for eating, but then also for our stand to supply our roadside stand. Boom, 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 boom. Cheryl, awesome, Grandma. Oh, Grandma, that is so awesome that you found that in your garden.
Well, we didn't just find it. It's like
it's all over the place.
Everywhere. Not just in the garden.
Everywhere that we disturb dirt.
Yeah. So the garden has it. It's all over the manure pile. It's all over. It's just everywhere.
Yep. Cheryl, I keep thinking, what would we do if the stores are not available? What could we use for health? That's a great thought. And I think a lot more people are thinking on that. Again, food shortages. A lot of people are thinking that. What can we eat around us? You know, the thought keeps coming to me. Nowadays, we need a grocery store or we can't survive. But native people lived in this country long before us white people showed up, and they ate. They didn't go to Sobeys. They didn't go to Walmart. There's food here, and you know, in the warmer climate, you can say, "Oh yeah, of course they had it easy." Well, no. People lived here. People lived much farther north, where winters were harsh, and they survived all winter long. And it's not like half the tribe died every winter because there wasn't enough food. No, they had lots to eat. There's food around us.
They knew what to use and what to eat.
They didn't go to emerge. They didn't go to the hospital. They didn't go to no doctor. I mean, they probably had their own, you know, medicine doctor or whatever their term would have been for, you know, but they had natural remedies. There was plants that you could eat and it would help you with things. And you're learning a lot of that. You've been doing homeopathic courses and learning more.
Yep.
And we also find that our modern pharmacare, there's just a lot of chemicals and a bunch of pills that they claim are going to make you better, but you read the side effects. A lot of them, you're going to need 5 more pills to counteract the first one. You know, we're definitely looking more into the natural, you know, food ways. Yeah, I'm looking tired. It's time for
it is. I'm doing the same.
Almost at 2 hours. All right, let's finish this up here. Where are we?
At the last one.
Stores unavailable. Yep. Cheryl, God gave us natural foods for health. Amen. Everything that we need in life is all around us, and God made it and planted it and grew it, and it's still here.
Yeah.
Very much. Well, it's been a slice. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate the support on our channel and on this live as well. So we will, I think, be putting more effort into some consistent videos here soon.
No guarantees.
No guarantees, but things are slowing down now that we probably have a bit more time for editing and such, and try to get you around the farm again here before the snow flies, show you some stuff. Just really appreciate it. And you guys can continue helping us by liking, sharing, subscribing. Sharing's big time. I guess we've got, almost 10,000 subscribers, but it's been kind of stuck there, just below 10,000 for a couple of months. So if everybody shares the snot out of it, maybe we can get over to 10,000, which would be great.
Gross.
The snot out of it? Well, Snare shares the
boogers out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
I was gonna say a different word, but it's
That's
not that
probably
much better.
Yeah.
Everybody just shares a lot out of it.
A lot of it. There you go.
Shares it a lot. Is that better?
I think that's much better.
All right. Everybody just share it a lot,
Thank you.
and that'll help grow our channel.
That would be
We
great.
appreciate that. And what else? Well, comments are always welcome. Drop them down. Let us know what kind of videos you'd like to see and stuff that you think might do well. And if you think we're educational, then give us an idea on what to talk about. I don't really feel like a teacher, but we live this life, I guess, and we don't feel it's all that extraordinary. It's just how we are. Any last comments?
I think that's it.
I thought there was one that showed up on the screen there a minute ago.
Nope, that's it.
Whoop, no, they're there. Love you both. God bless you so much. Hugs from Minnesota. Rest well, sweet ones. All right, good night, y'all. Catch you later.
How do we shut it off? I think that's it.
I don't know.
Give